Hello, I'm Robbie Stingle, and thank you for watching. Today, we're going to talk about this. Now, we got to go back quite a ways with this one, and this story is going to take a while. So, in late 81, 82, I had friends that worked at Kramer, and I wanted to build a guitar. And at that point, Floyd Rose bridges were kind of like an unobtainable rumor. So, my friend at Kramer knew the head of the guitar department at the time, who was Bill Isaacson. Hey, Zora. My princess is in the room. So, Bill had a little shop in Red Bank, New Jersey. And, I'd wanted to do the Tiger Stripe maple guitar. But I wanted the Tiger Stripe to be the actual grain in the guitar. So I went to his shop, and for probably was about $200, $250. Bill agreed to make me a guitar body, cut out for the Floyd Rose. So I went into a shop and I picked out the wood. I actually picked out the slabs of wood and figured how they'd look when the wood was cut in half and glued together on each, opposing sides. And he got to work on that. And in the meantime, he kind of got fired or quit. It's kind of the way things went at Kramer. So there's a story behind that. Now, Bill was in charge of getting the wood to make the guitar bodies, and he had acquired a bunch of really nice bird's eye Tiger Stripe maple. And he was going to go on vacation, right after he got it. So he took most of the wood and he stored it at the Kramer factory. Some of the wood, like this guitar, the really good looking stuff, he left in his little shop in Red Bank. Well, he went on vacation, and the guys that were making the bodies, they just used all that wood up and they painted it. So if you get, an early Kramer that has bird's eye popping through the finish, you get a lot of little dots coming up through the finish. That's actually the wood from one of those bodies. And there's been some that said they held on to those bodies for a while, and some actually became Berettas in the early years. So, look out for that. That's a rarity. So I needed a bridge for this body, and Bill and my friend at Kramer knew another guy that said he could, sell me a Floyd Rose bridge. And in 1982, I actually got a Floyd Rose from Schaller, Germany. Now, at the time, in 1982, American Precision Metal Works, Fernandez, and Schaller were all sending bridges to Kramer because they wanted the contract. Schaller was the cheapest because the base plates are cast steel. They're cast. The American Metal Works and the Fernandez are stamped steel. They started with a piece of steel and then bent it into the whale tail shape. But yeah, they had all these bridges in 82. They weren't released. It wasn't official, but they were there. So I got one of those for $100 with a locking nut, chrome. And I thought that, I bought it legitimately from this guy. And years later, when I rebuilt the guitar, I took the Floyd apart and I realized the saddles weren't in the right order. You know, one of the non-marked saddles, which is the middle, the D and the G, was in the B position, and that B string was always high on this guitar. And I finally figured that out after 30 years or something. But so I told him I wanted it stained red, and I wanted like a ridiculous amount of clear coat on that. He balked quite a bit, but he did it. And I wanted a tone. I thought it was kind of insane not to have a tone control. And Eddie was doing his. I wasn't sure what Eddie was doing with the 5150. I heard stuff from the factory, from the guys at the factory, but they told me, well, it's only got one knob, and I'm like, well, I want a tone knob. Of course, I was young and stupid, but Bill Isaacson, he drilled a hole for that other switch, which I never used. And I said, well, I didn't want the hole there. And he said, well, just we'll put a switch in there and just don't use it, So I was like, okay. And I went out and I bought a neck for this thing. Now, in 1982, I bought a Charvel San Dimas Strat head neck with an ebony fingerboard. And, he nutted it. I didn't know how to nut yet. And the thing with Kramer, when they put the nuts on the guitars, they always milled it too far, so you had to use a shim. And that's what he did. And then it was a kind of a big shim. And, of course, my brilliant ideas didn't stop there. I did not want the neck holes drilled through the neck. I thought that was ridiculous. Okay, again, very stupid. Innovative, maybe. I don't know. This was before everybody was doing these top mount Floyd Rosenuts. But I had it wood screwed into the top of the shelf, and that was a disaster also. I mean, it kept getting loose, I'd be in the middle of a show, and I did a whole bunch of weird dive bomb stuff, and engine sounds, and and that nut tension on and off, and it would loosen or start flopping around, and it's like while you're playing, trying to fine tune quickly back into tune because the nut's flopping around and whatnot. So I still don't agree with the top mount thing. I will always drill a hole through and countersink. Of course, that's how it started out at Kramer, but so years later, when I tried to rebuild the guitar, and I had the 85 Kramer that I had done, and that turned out good. No problems with that. But I couldn't get that San Dimas neck, so, to be where I could get the action down to like a 30-second. Couldn't do it. It had this whip, a little high spot, and I couldn't get rid of it, and it was very frustrating. Eventually, I went on to a series of other necks that had basically gone on to other guitars, which you'll see, in future videos. But I got in contact with Charvel. They were extremely hard to get a hold of. And I finally got the reply from them that string tension will straighten out your neck. This was hard maple, ebony fingerboard. That neck was not moving at all. Truss rod adjustment, it didn't work. You could back bow it, but it wouldn't go back to being straight. It always had that little whip in there. And I ended up taking the frets off of the fretboard and replaning the fretboard and putting the frets back on to get to get action lower on a guitar that I built for my friend that I gave to him so he could play out of my rig. I have a specially built guitar to handle the type of gain I use. And, I just gave it to him because, it was decent. It wasn't quite where I wanted it, And I put that neck on that guitar. I got the non-tilt banana that's on the Diver Down guitar. You know, and I use those parts on the guitar I made for him. Now, yeah, we discussed the Floyd pretty well there. And the body, you know, of course I had it no plate, because at the time when I was playing, I would just love to do this with the springs and hit the bar and make it sound like, you know, some kind of horror show. And let's move on to what this neck. Oh, first we'll do the pickup. This is not an Alnico 2 Custom Shop 78. And in the video, you can hear the difference. You can see how it's more harder around the edges. It won't split to the right tone, you know, and it's you know, a higher tone to it. This is an Alnico 2 Pro Seymour Duncan production line pickup. It could get a decent tone, and it's about half the price of the Custom Shop. But I also added a piece of wood between the pickup and the body in an attempt to warm it up a little bit. That's decent. I could play it. I played it. You know, the tone in the video was all the way up, so it's way open as if it wasn't there. And yeah, that's the pickup for it. And you can see the Bill Isaacson's neck plate was an early Strat size Kramer, very similar to the Focus plates. But this neck is a 1988 Lacido, you know, from Canada neck, and it's stamped on the back of the neck, you know, 1988 Canada. And this neck was supposed to be what was going to save Kramer. This is the one that they were going to come out with on the guitars, you know, after all the pointy stuff and everything. And that didn't really go over all that well at the time. And this neck had never been used. It's a fire sale neck. And eventually made it onto this guitar. So, thank you for watching. I hope you found that informative and interesting. Thank you to my subscribers. You guys are great. And have a nice day and rock on.